Big welcome to our channel. We are Team Crushing the Meta, and today we're here for you guys with a deck profile, and it's on Kagero, Blademaster.
Crushing the meta!
So, let's go fast through the deck, and after that let me explain some of the cards. Start it up with the grade 3s. Of course, because it's Blademaster, you play 4 copies of Blademaster Cohen. And for the secondary grade 3, I like to play 4 copies of Wyvern Strike. Grade 2 lineup, start up with 4 copies of Mukti, then 3 Nadim, 2 Radiant, and 2 Berserk Lords. For the Perfect Guards, I like to play the Unflip PGs, so Protect Orb Dragons, 3 Stride Fathers, Lava Flow, 3 copies of Neddle, and then 2 copies of Energy Flames and 2 copies of Belloc. Trigger lineup, 4 draw triggers, which are of course Kettling Draw Dragon. Then I like to play 8 crits for Yanet. And for heal triggers, could be any 4 heal triggers that you want to. And for the starter, I like to play Conroe, G-Zone. First, 1 copy of Vortex, Desire, 3 Titans. Then of course you need to play 4 copies of Ziegenberg. Then it's up to you to play 2 copies of Root Flare or 2 copies of the Express. I like to play Root Flare more because of the new G Guardians. Express is way less effective. So 2 copies of Root Flare and then 1 GB8. For the G Guardians, of course, play at least 2 copies of Denali Griffin, 1 of the Outflip G Guardian, 1 Salam, and 1 Desmiel. So let's get back to the deck and explain the cards. For the G Guardians, of course, I always like to play at least or just 1 copy of Desmiel in each deck. Helps out a lot in the Vanguard matchup, in the Mirror matchup sometimes, and also against Nubutama or Dominate, but also against Dimension Police. So it's nice to have him in this deck. Then of course you play 1 copy of Salam. This is a very good G Guardian. He gets an extra 10k for each open Dragard circle your opponent has on the field, for the counter blast of 1, so he could get very big. And then one of the Unflip G Guardians, of course, has the ability to retire one of your opponent's rested unit. It costs you a Soul Blast, but it also costs you a flip of a G Guardian, which sometimes is nice because you want to go into the GB8. 2 Deny Griffin, of course, you would never play a Kagero deck without this card. At least 2. Some people play 3, could play 3, but I like him at 2. Then 1 GB8, it has the ability to retire all of your opponent's Dragguards and gives all of your own Dragguards an extra 10k. And he himself gets an extra 10k and a crit, so that's very nice. He could be a very huge finisher. Then it's up to you to play the 2 copies of Root Flare or the 2 copies of the Express, or you play both of them and you take the Titan out. It's up to you to play which you want to. I like to give Root Flare a chance in this deck. I still like the Express because he is a very good finisher, but I don't want to take Titan at the same time out of the deck. So in this current build that I'm playing, I'm testing Root Flare if I don't really find him useful, because he is very good against resist units, but other than that you don't really need him. So if I find him not useful anymore, then I would take him out and I will put the Express back in this deck. Then of course, to flip the first Titan, you could play Desire or you could play Mustafar. It's up to you to play which one you like. I like Desire more in this deck because it doesn't cost you a counterblast and because he has the hit pressure. And Mustafar's skill is nice that you could retire one, but it's not really needed because you have a lot of rare card abilities that retire. So there is really no reason to retire one more. And Desire has the ability to be able to on hit retire, so sometimes they they don't have any Rhaegars on the field, but it's only he's good because he flips one of your G-Zone cards, so you are able to activate the skill of Cohen and activate the skill or unflip a Titan, so the second Titan will be more effective. So it's up to you to play which one you like. I just don't want to play the extra counterblast for his skill. And then of course you play the Ziegenberg. He is definitely your best stride in this deck. Being able to retire something for a Soul Blast and unflip of himself is nice, and also the restanding is very good. So the thing is with this deck, it sometimes loses against decks that have a lot of resist units. It's because of him, because he has the ability to restand, and then you have to discard a card for each record that your opponent has on the field. So if your opponent have 2 units with resist, you will have to discard 2 cards, and you get only 1 drive check. So that's when this deck will be losing resources. The deck would still work even if you discard multiple times 2 cards or 1 card for the extra attack. It would still work. Then for the main deck, for the trigger lineup, you play of course 4 heals. Could be anyone or any heal trigger that you want. I like this card because it could give you the counter charge. The Soul Blast of 2 is sometimes heavy, but it does work. Then the 8 crits. Yanet is of course very good for restanding Vanguard and get the extra card. And you could put him in the early game, boost his Strike Folder attack for 11. Then you could just put him into the soul to draw. Any other crits, we have to wait for set 13 to get the new critical trigger, which has the ability to retire something from the same column. It works even on the resist unit, so that's very nice. And then playing 4 draw triggers. Being a draw trigger and being Gatling Draw Dragon is so good because this card could retire or get rid of your opponent's starter. A lot of decks nowadays needs their starter to get the push that they want to, and with being able to retire their starter is really good. So that's why I play him at 4. Then of course I play Conroe as a starter. You could play also the new one if you want to. That could also work. The reason why I like Conroe more is you can use him in the early game, get rid of him, and you could get the right cards to your hands, Perfect Guard or G Guardian, so heal trigger, or sometimes even your right grade 1s. But the thing is, it's just being able to activate him on your first or second turn is really, first you can't really, but second or third turn is really good. Because sometimes your opponent could get rid of him and you don't want them to, so that's when you use him. And then we have the new starter, which is GB1. He has Blaze ability, of course, and you retire this unit when your Vanguard becomes blazing, so that works when he attacks. You could counter charge, draw a card, and give one of your units extra 3k. So he gives power, counter charge, and gets you an extra card. And the thing is, between these two, he costs you a counter blast and he gives you a counter charge. So the cost of 2. He costs you 2 counter blasts because he gives you the counter charge. So that's the thing between these two. If you want to play this deck, if you have, let's say, a grade 2 lineup, which is more of the retirement, like you play even this card in here, and the grade 1 version of him, then you do need a new starter. But I like to play Conroe, as I said, because you can use him early game and you could just get the right cards to your hands. And if you really need the counter charge, you could always get your grade 1 counter chargers. Grade 2 lineup, playing 2 copies of Berserk Lord and 2 copies of Radiant. You could play 4 copies of him if you want to, but I like Berserk Lord more because you could put him in the early game right there and you could attack, and then when you go into your GB, you would still be able to activate his skill to retire. And Radiant Dragon is also very good because he gets the power, but the problem with this card is he only retires grade 1 or less, so keep that in mind. Then of course the 3 copies of Dean. This card is in the early game also effective because he gets an extra 2k whenever your Vanguard is blazing. So he is a 11k attacker in the early game, could work against some decks. And also if you have GB1, then when this card attack hits the Vanguard, then you could counter charge. And then of course your main grade 2 is definitely Mubdi. You play him at 4 because this card is very very good and very effective. This is the reason why a lot of people are playing stand triggers. So whenever this card attacks the Vanguard, you cut +1, you get an extra 2k for each open Vanguard that your opponent has on the field, and also you draw a card. It only works if your Vanguard is blazing and if your Vanguard is Blademaster. So does it have to be blazing? Yeah, it has to be blazing and it has to be Blademaster. So yeah, when attacking with him, sometimes even put Cohen's skill on him to give him more power. With a stand trigger, this card could be devastating because you still draw 2 cards and he gets the power. So, but the thing is, I think the deck is already counterblast heavy, so I don't really want to put stand triggers in this deck. But yeah, this is very, very, very effective. I'm very happy that they gave Kagero these kind of grade 2s that gives him the draw power that they needed, and at the same time being a powerful Vanguard. And then we have Wyvern Strike. This is the reason why I like to play only 2 copies of Radiant Dragon, because in my opinion, Wyvern Strike does it better. Whenever it plays on Vanguard or Vanguards, you cut +1, soul +1, and then he retires something in the same column. He could not retire a resist unit, which is a shame, because he still targets the unit. But GB1, he has the second skill, which is continuous, and then if your Vanguard is blazing, you get an extra 2k for each open Vanguard circle in your opponent's back row. So he could get an extra 6k, make him a 17 with good booster behind him, could attack for higher numbers. And then of course 4 copies of Cohen. He has this skill, whenever you strike on the top of him, you count +1, and you retire one of your opponent's Vanguards, and you give one of your own units, which has the blazing ability, an extra 3k. Could give it to himself as well. On this stride on the top of him. And then his GB2 skill is at the end of each end turn, so your own end turn, your opponent end turn. Then you could activate his skill, which is you could add 1 grade 3 back to your hand, which has the blaze ability if your opponent doesn't have any Vanguard left on the field. This is the downside to, in my opinion, his own skill. Is that the downside to his skill is that you can't add the old Blademaster to your hand if you use him to stride, because the old Blademaster doesn't have blaze, and that's really, I don't like it. It was more fun if you could add the old Blademaster as well, because then you could play him in this deck. Now you can't. The other thing is that the old Blademaster has almost the same stride skill, which costs you a counterblast, but the old Blademaster only retires, doesn't give power. This card retires and gives power, so there isn't really no reason to play the old Blademaster. The only thing is that if you would like to play him, then it's for his GB2 skill, that he get a crit and an extra 5k. But, well, you really don't need that, because with his skill you could almost always stride by getting rid of your opponent's field. So yeah, I do like Cohen a lot, and this deck is also very very strong. It's way more strong than Overlords are right now, or what Blademaster was, and that's all because of Cohen and because of Ziegenberg. Especially this card is really effective. The Soul Blast 1 for the retirement is of course meant very cheap, and then for the Counterblast of 1 he restands, and sometimes you even don't have to discard anything. And yeah, if you want us to talk about the weaknesses of this deck, we'll also, of course, we have our own series, which is how to crush. Keep that in mind, that you could always go to our YouTube channel and check that series out, of course, as well. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you want to see another kind of deck list, we also have 2 other players that play Blademaster. Some of them play stands, some of them play more draws. So tell us what you want to see next, and tell us if you want to see another deck list or another deck profile on Blademaster. Also, if you yourself played Blademaster differently, then tell us as well. So thanks for watching, guys. Until next time.